Hello everyone, welcome back to Miss Fashion YouTube channel. My name is Miro. If you are new here, you are welcome. Kindly hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. So in today's tutorial, we are going to be going about the sewing of this dress, the bust caging, the invisible Bonny technique, and every other thing. And if it is something you're interested in learning, you will definitely keep on watching, and let's get started with the tutorials. So these are the patterns from the previous video. So this is a front pattern, so I'll go ahead now to transfer all the patterns to the fabric. Okay, so when cutting your pattern on your fabric, make sure you are adding at least 1 inch seam allowance. If you are doing an invisible Bonny technique, please add allowance so that you'll be able to get enough allowance to do your invisible Bonny technique. So I've gone ahead to cut out the pattern on my fabric. So I used 2 layers of hairstay on this velvet fabric. Okay, I used 2 layers of hairstay to make it firmer. So these are all the pieces. So now what I'll do now is to join all the pieces together. I'll go ahead to join all the pieces together, then I'll bring it back to the camera. So when I was cutting this center front, I added a allowance, sewing allowance to it. To the center, like I left allowance because I want to stitch a line at the center of the front. For the center front, I want to stitch a line there because I want to add bone. I want to also add Bonny at the center front. So you can skip this part if you want to. So you can skip it if you want. You can also just add 1 inch allowance at that center part to get the Bonny channel. Okay, so make sure you infuse interfacing on your velvet if you are using velvet or whichever fabric that you are using. Okay, so now it's time for me to join it. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now and join all the pieces together. So when I'm done, I'll bring it back to the camera for you to see. So I've gone ahead to join all the pieces together, as you can see. So this is what I'm having at the moment. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do now is to take this to the ironing table. I'm going to iron this the front bodies. I'll make sure all the seams are open. I'll give it a nice spread and also mold the cup area. So I'm done ironing. This is what I have at the moment, as you can see. So this is the result of the ironing. Make sure all your seams are well opened, okay, while ironing. So I went ahead to notch the underbust so that the underbust should be relaxed. So you do same for yours. This will enable the cup and the underbust area to relax properly. Now you can see how the cup is standing, even without back up, without warding, without doing so much. You can see it's well relaxed. So this is what you should have. Okay, so the next thing I'll be doing now is to sew my Bonny, the Bonny to the main fabric. So this is where the trace comes in for the invisible Bonny. This way, the way I'm going to be teaching you now, your thread won't be showing. The thread won't be shown. You won't be stitching. You won't stitch at the you won't stitch in such a way that the thread will be showing at the front of the fabric. Okay, so you're going to be stitching on the allowance. You can see what I'm trying to show you there. You're going to be sewing on the seam allowance. You can see, so you sew on the seam allowance, making sure that your thread is not showing at the front of the fabric. So I'll take you to the sewing machine now so that you see what I'm trying to say. So now this is how you're going to go about it. You take your Bonny like so. You're going to measure 1 inch downward from the top. Okay, you measure 1 inch downward from the top like so. Then you place your Bonny and take the seam allowance. You can see the way I'm taking it. Okay, making sure that I won't sew, making sure that I won't sew on the front, okay, of the dress. You can see how I took the seam allowance. So I'm going to be sewing on the sides, the both sides of the Bonny. Okay, I'll go ahead now to sew the Bonny on the both sides. Okay, so just watch what I'm doing. You can see what I'm doing right now. Okay, just sew to the end, and then you repeat the same thing on the other side, okay, of the Bonny, so that the both sides will be firm. So when you're done, you just go ahead and cut it off like so, making sure you're leaving at least ½ an inch at the down part. Okay, so you go ahead now to take off the threads if there is any, and sew the other side of the Bonny. You flip it over. You see the way I'm going to flip it now. Okay, so I've already sewn that part. You flip it over to the other side. You see, I've already sewn one part. Okay, I've sewn one part. I'm sewing the other side now. You can see the thread is not showing at the front. You can see the thread is not showing at the front. You see the way the thread is showing. The thread is showing at the seam allowance. You can see. So I'll go ahead now to also sew the other side. Okay, so in such a way that you don't have to stitch on the front of your dress. Okay, so now go ahead and stitch that to the end, then I'll show you how it looks like. So now you can see I've gone ahead to stitch it down. As you can see it's firm now. So now you can see the two threads are showing on the seam allowance. Okay, it's showing on the seam allowance. So I'll flip this over to the other side like so, and take my boning to sew on the other side. Okay, so that's what I'll be doing now. I'll repeat the same process for the other side and every other part of this blouse. Okay, this is the same process I'm going to use for every other boning channels I'm going to be making on this blouse. So feel free, go ahead and do the same thing. If you don't want your boning to be showing at the front of your dress, or you don't want to stitch your boning on your lining, this is the way, the absolute way you can do it to make your clothes come out well, and it will still snitch your client or snitch your waist. Okay, so you can see I have sewn one part. Okay, I've sewn one part. I'm going to repeat the same process for every other part. Okay, even for the cup area, you can decide to skip this if you want. So you can see I'm going to place my boning like so. So you can see I'll make sure I also come down at least by 1 inch from the upper part. Okay, so I'll place my boning like so. I'll go ahead to sew the boning on the sides. Okay, so this on this particular part now, I won't be doing it the way I did the other part, because this is the cup area. Okay, so just watch what I'm trying to do. I'll place my boning like so. So I'm going to put the boning in such a way that it will be at the center line. This is where I stitch, like the center cup. Okay, so I'll take one side of the seam allowance. I'm going to sew like so. Okay, I'll sew from the top to the down part. Please, if you don't know how to do this, you can just keep it, because you need to curve your boning while sewing this to follow your cup, the shape of your cup, to get the perfect finishing. Okay, so just watch what I'm doing and you understand what I'm trying to say. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to sew the boning on the cup area. I've sewn the boning on the cup area. So now I'll go ahead now to sew for the center part. Okay, so if you remember at the beginning of this video, I said I left allowance at the center part. Okay, because I want to fix boning at that center part. Okay, so I'll go ahead now. I'll do the same process for every other remaining parts of this blouse. Okay, for the invisible boning. Okay, so that's what I'll basically do. I'll bring it to the camera to show you the result of what I did. Okay, now as you can see, this is the result of the invisible boning. You can see how neat and fine it is inside. So I'll move over now to the lining. This is the lining. So I've already joined my lining when I was joining the front bodies and every other thing. So go ahead to join your pieces together. Okay, so this is the lining part, because for this lining part I want to cage the bust for this lining part. Okay, so I'll go ahead now, and meanwhile I didn't also pad this lining part. What I used was just paper stay. Okay, I just used paper stay on the cup area. So this is the boning I'm going to be using to cage the bust of this blouse. Okay, so now I'm going to be drawing the lines I'll use, the lines for the caging. Okay, so just watch the way I am going to draw the lines. So now I'll take my marker. I'll go ahead to just draw a curved line like so that is going through the under bust to the center front to meet the second under bust and also the sides, okay, of the bust area, like so, as you can see. So there are no rules to this. Just do what works for you. Do what works for you. You can decide to do 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. It depends on what you want and how your client wants it. Okay, so there are no rules to this. So as you can see, what I'm trying to do, I'm going to be sewing bonnies on those sides, on the center cup area, the 2 sides cup area. I'm going to be sewing straight bonnies there. Then I'll go ahead to also roll another line like so, going from the side to meet the bust point. Okay, it's this particular line that I'm drawing now will go through the bust point. In whatever you are doing, make sure that even if it's 2 lines you want, make sure that 1 line is going through the bust point. It's very important. Make sure there's a boning at the bust point area. Okay, so I have 3 lines now. I have 3 lines now, plus the last one, which is 4. Okay, so in total now I have 4 lines like so. Now the first thing you want to do now is to trim off the allowance. Okay, make sure you trim off the allowance as much as possible as you can. Okay, so I'll go ahead to trim off the allowance. So when I was done, so what I had, so the first thing I will do now is to sew my boning. Okay, so see the way I'm placing my boning. So go ahead to sew your boning, leaving 1 inch or half an inch at the upper part, so that you'll be able to turn your blouse to the other side. Okay, so now I will go ahead now, and while doing bust caging, make sure your boning is like following the way you are sewing. Okay, make sure it is curved while sewing. Don't just make your boning don't just make it straight while sewing. Make sure as you are sewing, you are curving the boning alongside with what you are doing. Okay, that's one way you can get a perfect result. Okay, so you see what I'm doing now. Go ahead now, sew on this first on the bust area like so. You can see the way I'm curving the boning. Okay, go ahead and curve your boning like so, and we are still going the same process you are going to be using for every other part of this bust caging. So when you get to the end part like so, you take your scissors and just go ahead and cut it off. As you can see, take your scissors and cut it off like so, and then you continue to finish up. Okay, so when you are done, you just turn your fabric like so to the other side, and you continue sewing. Okay, you continue sewing the boning from the other side. Okay, you sew the other side of the boning. Okay, so you are going to repeat the same process for all the lines. Okay, so I'll just take you through how I was able to achieve it. So I've gone ahead to sew on these 3 lines. As you can see, I've sewn on the 3 lines like so, remaining the other lines, okay, that I drew earlier. So now I'll take my boning. I'm going to be placing it like so. So as you can see, I took my boning. I'll place it like so. I'm going to be sewing through the bust point area first. The bust point area, that's the deepest part of the cup, of this cup. Okay, so that's where I'm going to be. So you can see the way I'm pulling my boning to make sure that it's fitting into the bust area. As you can see the way I pulled my boning. That's why I said while sewing, you have to curve your boning alongside the lines that you are sewing on to be able to get the perfect result of this bust caging. Okay, so go ahead like so. Make sure your boning is lying flatly like so. Okay, then you sew the same process I'm going to use to sew the remaining parts of this bust caging. Okay, you can see the way I got to the other part of the bust point area. You can see the way I placed my boning to be sure that it's well relaxed. Okay, do the same thing for yours, and you can see just 1 line. You can see how it's coming out with just 1 line. This is how the front looks like. Okay, this is how the front looks like. go ahead and do the same thing for yours, and you are going to get the same result. So I will take you through the rest, okay, of the bust caging. So now I'm going to sew at the curved area. So I want to sew on the curved area, so I went ahead to take my boning like so. So I'll place it on my machine like so. Then I'll go ahead now to stitch. Okay, so while doing this curved part, you have to make sure you are going alongside with your the lines, and also with your boning. Make sure you are using your hand to arrange it properly. Okay, so I'll just sew that now, then I'll show you the results of it. So when you are sewing this curved part, make sure you see what that part I'm pointing out. Make sure this boning they are sewing on this curved part is lying, at least is lying on the previous boning. Okay, make sure it's lying on it to avoid sharp edges. Okay, so you also do the same thing for the center front. Make sure it's covering it, like it's covering it. This boning now is covering those rough parts. Okay, so you are going to sew like so, and you sew through to this other end. So this is the result of it. So you can see how firm it is. So this you can see how firm it is. This is the result of it. So I'm going to go ahead now to sew on the remaining lines. Okay, so if you notice now, so this is what I had when I was done. As you can see how firm it is. You can see how firm it is. Okay, so just follow the procedure, and if you want a more detailed video on how to do just only bust caging, you can let me know. Okay, so I don't want this video to be too lengthy. Now it's time to iron. Okay, so just follow the way I am doing the ironing. Okay, so if you have steam iron, preferably it's better, but if you don't have steam iron, you can just improvise by sprinkling water on your fabric and then you iron. Okay, so this is what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to mold the boning. Okay, as you can see, go ahead and do the same thing for yours. Just watch the way I am doing it. Just watch the way I'm doing it now. So when you are done, you're going to flip it over like this to the other side and also iron. At this point, you have to be very patient, so that you need to mold the cup area properly. Okay. When I was done with the cup molding, I went ahead with this with a hairstay to cover, like to flesh the boning. Okay, the the caged part. Okay, so you can go ahead to use fiber if you have, okay, or any other interfacing that you have. Just go ahead and use whatever that you have just to flesh the boning. Okay, so just do the same thing for the other cup, and I will show you the end result of what I got. So I used about 3 layers, if I'm not mistaken, on this part. Okay, you can do as many layers as you can. So this is what I had when I was done. This is the inside look. You can see how neat it is. This is how the inside looks like. Okay, so this is how the caged part looks like. I've already gone ahead to flesh it. You can see how neat it is. If you follow this tutorial, this is the same result you are going to get, or even more. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do now is to take my main fashion fabric like so. I'm going to iron the bust area that I sewn boning on. I hope you remember the main velvet fabric. So I'll go ahead to use my steam iron to iron it down like so. Okay, so do the same thing for yours, and you are going to get a perfect result. So that's what I'm basically just doing like so. Okay, so if at this point you haven't subscribed, please kindly subscribe, hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you got value for this video after watching it, kindly drop a comment on the comment section and also hit on the like button. Thank you so much. Okay, share the video so that it can reach a wider audience that's in need of this kind of tutorial. Okay, thank you so much. So go ahead to just iron like so. Okay, so when I'm done, I'll show you the end result of what I got. after ironing. So this is how it looks like when I was done ironing, as you can see. So these are the back piece. Okay, now I want to do inseam finishing for this blouse. I'm going to go ahead to now. I'll go ahead now to sew the front and the back together, the sides. Like I'm going to shape the front and the back together using the allowance I left. Okay, so I'll go ahead now to sew it. Yeah, and if you haven't watched the drafting tutorial of this video, kindly go ahead and watch it, the video before this one. Okay, go ahead and watch it, okay, so that you get a better knowledge of what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'll go ahead now to stitch it down. Okay, I'll also stitch that up with the lining. I'll stitch everything using the sewing allowance that I left for them. Okay, I'm gonna head to attach to sew the front and the back together using the seam allowance. Okay, so this is what the inside is looking like, and this is what the outside is looking like. Okay, so go ahead and do the same thing for the lining. So before you sew the two sides of the back and the front of the lining together, so I want to attach boning to the part where I'll be fitting my eyelet on. Okay, this is more like not compulsory. If you want, you can use this pattern. If you want, you can use another pattern. Okay, I'll go, and that's the lines I'm going to be fixing my bonies to. Okay, I want it so that it will be more firmer while lacing it, or while my client is wearing it, it's more firmer using boning. Okay, so I went in by 0.75 inch, just so there will be allowance to turn the back. Okay, there will be allowance to use the lining to turn the main fabric at the back before the eyelet stand. Okay, so that's the line I'm just basically drawing there, so I'll know where I'll start my boning from. Okay, where I'll start sewing my boning from. So the reason why I'm attaching boning to the back like so, it will help the dress to be more firmer, okay, while lacing it. Okay, so you can decide not to add boning to your eyelet stand. Me, I prefer to add boning to my eyelet stand. Okay, so I'll go ahead now to just attach the boning to it, and then that will be all for this part before joining the two sides of before shaping the lining. Okay, so I was supposed to talk about this clip before the previous one. Okay, so I hope you just understand what I'm trying to say. Now it's time to use the lining to turn the main fabric. So you're going to place your fabric like so with the lining, and you go ahead to match all the lines together. Make sure all the lines are matching together. Then you're going to turn the neckline and also turn the sides. Okay, you go ahead to turn the neckline and also turn the sides of the blouse. So that's what you're basically doing. And make sure, please, all the lines are matching together properly. They're matching together properly, okay? So that's what you basically do here. Turn everything together with the lining. Then you're going to turn it out from the down part, okay? You just sew from the neckline like so, and sew to the sides. That will be all. Then I'll bring it back to the camera for you to see. So I've gone ahead to turn every other part, and also for the down part I used a strip of velvet to turn it to pipe the down part, okay, of the blouse. So now it's time for me to start beading. I've attached my eyelet and every other thing, so this is the beads I'm using. So go ahead to use whichever bead that you want, okay, to design your blouse. So if at this point you haven't subscribed, kindly hit on the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video, and kindly drop a comment down below if you got value for this video. Okay, so that will be basically all. So I went ahead to start beading the fabric. I did all the beading myself. I used crystal bead, and also this is a Caribbean bead. This bead I'm using to bead now is a Caribbean bead. So if you watch the final look of this fabric, of this blouse, you will see that there's this kind of bead is going through the 3 lines, maybe 4 lines, okay, before I started using the crystal beads. Okay, so I'm basically just arranging it on the blouse. Okay, so that's what I'm basically just doing. Like, so go ahead with whatever that you want to embellish your dress with. So that'll be all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. Kindly hit on the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video, and kindly please share this video, okay, so that it can reach a wider audience. Thank you so much for watching. See you on my next one. Bye.